myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It's Tuesday morning, and delighted to say I'm joined by Ross Gregory. How are you, Ross?
I'm good, Steve. Yourself? I've got a little bit of cold, so hopefully my voice holds out over the day. But no, I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. And the season is over. And wow, it does seem to me. I put this out on Twitter over the weekend. It feels like light years since the season began, and I was, sitting in 28 degrees Celsius at York Stadium, watching a Steve Bruce masterclass lead us to a 1-0 defeat, and thinking, this is going to be a long, long season. And, fast forward, here we are in May, the sun, shining, warm weather coming back again. Newcastle United finishing 11th in the Premier League after failing to register a point or a win in 14 games in that opening part of the season. It's just weird, Ross. It's amazing to think it's over. Let's look at the result of the weekend, first of all. Newcastle travelled to Burnley. It was a game we feared at the start of the season being a 6-pointer. It almost was, if it hadn't been for that fantastic run by Eddie Howe and the lads. But yeah, it led to Burnley having to win or get something out of the game, and hoping Leeds did worse, and they didn't. Leeds stayed up, Burnley went down. What did you make of the game?
Fantastic win again. I was, going into the game, I was 100% confident that Newcastle weren't going to get beat. I thought it might have been tight, might have been a battle and draw, but the pressure was all on Burnley. Newcastle had a free hit at it, to be honest. And while I didn't watch the game live, but I caught up with the highlights and everything afterwards. While it wasn't the greatest game, those were and still are the type of games that Newcastle would have lost at the start of the season, or even kind of just before Christmas. Those tight kind of battling games where you need to dig a result out, you need to be solid defensively. Those are the type of games that would have ended as a 2-each draw or a 1-each draw or a 2-1 defeat previously, or a 2-0 defeat. It shows again how far Newcastle have come. You make a really good point. There's no pressure going into that game because safe, sitting in 13th or 12th before the game started, and safe, and who would have thought of that before Christmas, or even at the end of January probably. So pressure was off. It was all on Burnley. They failed to respond. They looked really, really, really poor, and just a really nice way to end the season on a positive. I'm glad that they got the win to finish off the season. I know it might sound daft, but I think going into the summer with another win under your belt just adds to that feel good factor, rather than a defeat in something that might have finished a little bit on a negative note after the fantastic Arsenal performance. So yeah, all good and all positive, Steve.
Yeah, I was down there in Burnley. I got invited by Nathan, who we used to do Match Day Live with us, to the corporate section. I had a ticket for the game, which luckily one of my mates took on, and he was over the moon with that. But I went to the corporate section, which meant I was sitting with Burnley fans. I've got to say, they were great. Great to catch up with Nathan and meet his granddad for the first time. But sitting on the Carlsberg table with a couple of Geordies, and the rest were Burnley. It was awful for me, really, sitting there having to watch them go through the emotions that we've been through so many times before. We've had days where we stayed up. Who could forget the game where Jonas scored that wonderful goal and St James's Park went mad? And then we've had other games where we were away to Aston Villa, and the infamous Sob on the Tyne banner was unfurled by the Villa fans. So we've seen both sides of it, but to be there as a fan, sitting in the home end and watching it from their perspective was quite a weird feeling, and I did feel very sorry for them. The Burnley fans have always been great. I've never personally had any trouble at Burnley or problems with people at Burnley, and I just felt really sorry. And it's that amazing situation that you find yourself in as well, where it's social media and TVs, of course, in corporates, but they have you have that emotional roller coaster of a ride. False information coming through. Leeds, of course, scored in the first half, and then it was disallowed. So you had the euphoria around the ground, and then suddenly the disappointment, and it was a roller coaster ride throughout. And then, of course, Newcastle take the lead, and it's doom and gloom. Newcastle score a second. The fans around you have consigned themselves to relegation, but then you hear that there's a goal, and against Leeds, and you're thinking, oh, there's still a chance, and it's cruel. It's exciting as a neutral, and there's somebody who isn't involved, but as a football supporter, you do feel for them. And I had a few conversations with Burnley fans in the corporate, and as I was coming away from the ground and walking back to the car, speaking with a lot of Burnley fans, and a lot of them just came up and said, good luck next season. You're a sleeping giant. Well done on staying up, and we just want all the best for you. And it was humbling as a supporter. It's what supporters should do. But football has been in the headlines for the wrong reasons this weekend, with more pitch invasions and players being assaulted. It's like a flashback to the bad old days. But at Turf Moor and at Burnley this weekend, I got a sense of that the overall good in football is far outweighs the bad, Ross.
Yeah, I think Burnley's an interesting club. It's very community based still. It has been over the years. They've come into the Premier League and they've punched well above their weight for a number of seasons now. So they don't spend a lot of money. They're not flash. They're just a grounded kind of community club. So it's been great to see them prosper. I think their luck's probably just run out a little bit now. They've been in and around that bottom half for a few seasons, and Sean Dyche, it worked kind of wonders with them. But they were going to go eventually. I think keep punching above your weight in that league is very, very tough, and we've seen clubs with bigger assets and with more finances and with more revenue, struggling in that league more than what Burnley have done. So it was sad to see them go. It's sad any team go. Leeds could have quite easily dropped as well, and I would have been disappointed to see Leeds go, if I'm being truthfully honest as well, because I think they were a big northern club, which I like to see. I'd like to see Leeds doing well. I like to see them prosper. I know a lot of fans aren't enamoured with Leeds, and I fully understand why. But I like to see big northern clubs do well. I'd like to see your Leeds come back strong, and your Chef Weds and your Chef Uniteds and teams like that, and create a bit more of a northern power base. So I would have been disappointed if Leeds had gone. I would have been disappointed if Everton gone, to be honest, as well. I know, I'm reading some of the comments here on the side, and some people would have loved to have seen Everton go. And again, I understand why, but yeah, it's a shame for Burnley, but they're a really good club. Hopefully, I'm a little bit worried for them financially. I'm a little bit worried about their future now with everything that's going on around the ownership and the leverage buyout and everything else like that. So that's going to be a really tricky one for them, I think, over the next 12 months. But yeah, it's a shame for them to drop out of the league.
Yeah, it was rather bizarre situation in the corporate, as well, as one of the owners walked through the corporate, and if that was at Newcastle, obviously at this moment in time, then those players, the owners would be posing for selfies and shaking hands and would be given a round of applause, and rightly so. But the owner walked through with a camera following at the weekend, and it was almost as if he wasn't there. It was a rather strange reception. Clearly, a lot of distrust and animosity towards the owners, and we can see why. But yeah, good luck to Burnley, and let's move on, because next week we are going to do a season review. So we'll concentrate on what's going on at the club at the moment, and reading a lot of the headlines, moving on from the Burnley game. Eddie Howe clearly, had a press conference pre-match and then spoken to the press after the game. We are playing down transfer activity, Ross. I think that's wise. I'm not sure I believe it. But I'll, just for instance, the wage structure. Let's start with that. A lot of people, have seen the headlines about Lingard potentially moving to Newcastle. Of course, we were heavily linked with him in January. And, you know, the talk of £150,000 a week wages is what he's looking for. Newcastle are still, I think, paying under £100,000, you know, for players on a weekly basis. And the articles that I've seen, I think Lee Ryder at the Chronicle, you know, stating that the big earners will, you know, probably be on 100,000 and nothing more. That's going to rule us out of a few big names, isn't it, Ross?
It is, and it's again, it's a tricky dynamic for the club, because you want to grow, you want to push on, you want to move on to the next level, but you've got to do it incrementally. You've got to do it in stages. You can't just go from, you know, from A to Z straight away. You've got to build it over a period of time. What happens, I think, if you bring in players suddenly say your top earners on 80, 90 grand a week, which, you know, is fantastic money still, don't get me wrong, but all of a sudden, if you're starting bringing in people on 150, 160k a week, then it creates there's potential there to create a bit of a divide, or to create a little bit of well, just to unsettle some players, because, you know, people who were previously your top players and might still be top earners, then all of a sudden they're going to want a bit of a pay rise as well, and it creates a bit of a domino effect. So I think unless you're bringing in a real kind of superstar, unless you're bringing in a real top level player who is substantially better than what you've got, in kind of demands that fee, those wages, I think you've got to do it in increments. I don't think you can all of a sudden start bringing in players on 250, 300,000 pounds a week, or even 150, 160 is going to be a bit of a stretch. So having said that, you're not going to get the really top level players unless you go out and splash the cash. So it's another interesting part of the kind of the summer transfer dynamic is, yes, you can pay big money in wages, and yes, the club will be attractive to certain players, but how does it affect the rest of the squad? Eddie Howe talked after the game about the team spirit within the squad and not wanting to upset that, and he's very right to talk about that, because what he's created and what's been created around the club over the last 6 months, you don't just want to dismantle by bringing in a couple of players who, while they may be fantastic players, don't really fit in with the squad ethos.
Yeah, I genuinely think as well that if, you know, Newcastle were to say sign Lingard, you'd have an issue straight away, because if his fee was you know, agreed, and we do end up paying him £150,000, the first thing Eddie Howe's going to have is probably 5 or 6 players knocking on the door saying, well, hold on a minute, I want that as well. Yeah,
100%. You know, your Callum Wilsons and your you know, your Brunos and people like that who've come in and it'll be on a certain wage. They'll look and go, well, hang on a second, if he's getting that and I'm playing in the same team and I'm on a similar level to him, then all of a sudden I want to pay a rise, and it becomes a little bit difficult to manage, and could create issues in the short term that the club don't really need. You know, long term that the wage bill is going to go up. It absolutely is, but you've got to remember as well is at the minute the revenues aren't quite there for Newcastle. They've got to grow those revenue streams, which were absolutely ignored and dismantled to an extent by Mike Ashley. You know, that the club didn't improve commercially. It didn't drive the revenue streams other than the TV money, which you know, propped Newcastle up, because they weren't making the money from the merchandise and from other revenue streams. So until they can get that side of things right, then they're not going to be able to fork out the big money on wages as well.
No, definitely not. It's going to be interesting, summer, whatever happens. A lot of names being linked already. I think the one that people are looking at short term is Target, but rumours circulating, and I say rumours, not facts, rumours. You know, that potentially there could be a hiccup with Matt Target, because, you know, as often happens in situations like this, the player may be keen to move to the club, but maybe the family aren't as keen to move north.
Yeah, he's very southern based. He's very, you know, his family are all based down south. Having said that, you know, he's been playing for Villa, which isn't right down in the south of the country. It might be to some of us, but it's not right down in the south of the country. That's an interesting one, the left back situation, because I don't know. I've never been 100% convinced that that Targett was going to be coming here in the summer for whatever reason. I think if you're Matt Targett's agent, though, as well, let's be honest, if you're Matt Targett's agent, you're going to want to get him the best move possible. And if putting his name in with another club, whether it be Fulham or Southampton or whoever it is, in generating that little bit of interest and that little bit extra kind of competition for his signature, doesn't do him any harm, strengthens his bargaining power. Newcastle need a left back in the summer. There's no doubt at all about that. It's just whether that's Matt Targett or whether they look to, who I think's done a fantastic job, by the way. Matt Targett, I thought he's been really, 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 really good, really solid, better than what I expected him to be, if I'm being brutally honest. But do Newcastle look to even upgrade even further on him in the summer? Do they think, right, actually we can bring somebody else in?
Do you think that's a possible reason why Dummett was given another year, just in case there's an issue? Maybe the focus will be, I am sure, will be on a centre forward, somebody who can get 20 goals a season is what they need, despite the fact that Callum Wilson's returned and looks in great shape and great form, bagged a couple again at the weekend, but there'll always be question marks over whether he can stay fit for the whole season. They'll want a 20-goal striker. Maybe, that was a precautionary signing.
Yeah, you could be right. And there's still Jamal Lewis there as well, Steve. So there is two left backs there, and Manquillo has done a decent job at left back when he's been pressed in there. Obviously, Kieran Trippier can play there, as he's done for England in the Euros and on the biggest stage. So they're all right for left backs. They're not. There's not a dearth of them at the club, or people who can play there. But I do think they need somebody who's a specialist. Jamal Lewis did okay when Eddie Howe first came in, and then he's had an issue with his groin and stuff like that. He probably needs a loan out next season. Dummett's there as a cover. I think they will look to bring a left back in, but the priority has got to be at the top end. It's got to be with forwards and wingers, or wide forwards, if you like, players who are going to create and score goals. That's got to be the focus in the summer, and where the majority of the money is going to be spent. If you can get Matt Targett for 15 million, I think you bite the hands off. But I don't know. There's something around the deal that just doesn't add up to me at the minute.
Yeah. Watch that one, of course, with interest. As always, we ask you to get involved. Plenty of questions coming in. John Askew was first in, so we'll go with him. Morning, lads. Do you think a number of deals have already been agreed? Who is overseeing negotiations? And is it more difficult without Dan Ashworth in tune? A few questions there, Ross, to chew over. What's your thoughts?
I think deals have been lined up. I don't know if any have been agreed at the minute, but there's certainly work doesn't stop once the January transfer window closes. The discussions and scouting and negotiations and conversations will take place with clubs and with representatives all the way through. So they'll have been speaking to players, and they'll have been speaking to clubs, and there'll be a couple of deals, no doubt at all, that there are a couple of deals that are close. And it's the old phrase of getting them over the line, but there is a couple of deals close, without a shadow of a doubt. The owners are having to do a lot of the legwork because Dan Ashworth isn't in place, and I do think Dan Ashworth coming in will have a key role to play. His role won't be purely on recruitment, though, and it won't be purely on getting signings over the line. He will have a wider remit than that. But I do think not having him in place is a little bit of a blow, and it does make things a little bit more tricky. The one I point to is Aston Villa. So they've got a really, really strong recruitment set up at the minute at Aston Villa, and they do a lot of that business very effectively, very efficiently, very quietly. Bang, 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 job done. Sometimes you don't even hear players being linked until it's announced on their website. Callum Chambers in January hadn't even been linked with Villa. Nowhere, out of nowhere, bang, announced. Same with Danny Ings last summer. no even hint of them being in for Danny Ings, and all of a sudden they've signed him. You know, they don't go through this whole rigmarole that a lot of clubs do, where they're linked with a million players and it becomes a drawn out transfer saga. They've got a really efficient structure in the background. They've got, you know, Christian Perslow, who's obviously very experienced and very, very talented in terms of dealing with transfers, and they just go bang, 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 and it's done, and it's over the line. Did the same yesterday with Boubacar Kamara, who's very highly rated, and they've got that one over the line, announced free transfer. So it would be great if Newcastle were in that position, but the way the club is since the owners took over, there's a lot of stuff in the background that still needs to be put in place. It's not going to happen overnight. There's a lot of structures and appointments that still need to be made, whether it's Dan Ashworth or others. But to answer the question, yes, there will be conversations and there will be deals that are very, very close. With that, I've got no doubt.
Yeah, Craig, we did discuss Matt Targett earlier. Reports about Fulham wanting Targett, I wouldn't be surprised. He'd be much sought after, Craig, and that's the problem. You know, it's not always down to the player. He's come here on loan. If the missus doesn't fancy it, got to keep things right at home. And, you know, it's no good having a player in Newcastle if his family are in London and he's not happy and they're not happy. It's not going to lead to anything positive. But it could work out. Who knows? We've seen it happen before. Let's just wait and see what happens with him. At least we got some fantastic games out of Targett. He'll always be remembered. He'll always be thanked by Newcastle fans. He'd get a great reception if he does have to leave and come back with Fulham. You know, you get a great reception. But yeah, keep the questions coming in. I do want to say thank you to everybody who subscribes to the platform. And why? Well, because of this. 48,000 subscribers. Amazing to think over the course of lockdown, when we came up with an idea to launch NUFC Matters, that so many people have bought into it. So thank you very much. A lot of questions on Twitter this morning. Are you going to continue the shows? Yes, we are. 7 days a week, we will continue to make content. As you know, I've been through a couple of major incidents in my life over the last 2 years, and I've continued to put the content out. It does help me, the chat and the people who I've met and got to know through this platform have helped me through some hard times, and I'll continue to do it. I enjoy doing it. You enjoy it, and we'll continue to do it, continue to grow. And let's hope by the end of the year we can hit that big 5-0. I'd love to do it, and it's great to share the screen with people such as Ross, who I classify as a good friend. Liam Kennedy, who I met this week, who has passed on his best to everybody, and he will be back later this year. And the many others who do their bit on this platform. And I do want to say a big thank you to Pete Davey and to Chris Hall again for doing a full season of fans forums. They were absolutely fantastic. I know you guys love it because it's always your opportunity to get on the screen and have your rant or have your loving about Newcastle United, whichever it is, after a weekend's performance. And as I have done on Twitter this morning, I have condemned. Unfortunately, we ended up with some more racism on the platform last night. I want to thank the moderators for acting quickly and getting rid of the troll. But there's no place for racism in life, never mind football. And, it cuts deep when people do that on the platform. I just want to thank the moderators. I know John and Rachel were on last night, and they acted as quickly as they could to get rid of that particular person. But, it's a social media problem. It's a world problem. And until the social media powers act accordingly and stop faceless accounts, unfortunately, we're always going to be faced with this kind of, ludicrous situation. But Pete, I hope you're okay. Thank you for, as I said, doing the show this year. And thanks to Chris, and they will be back in August. So what have I got for you during the summer? Well, we have got a few new shows. We've got the transfer show, which we will be doing every Monday. And we will be doing the George Mitchell show. I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this. People have asked me to do George by himself because he's often on a panel with other people. And George is going to be doing Those Were the Days, which is a season review, starting with the first season that he ever went to, and that was 1950. So we're going back to 1950 with George. He's going to give us his season review, his best games, his best goals, his player of the season, But a lot of memories, and I'm looking forward to that, Ross, because it's not very often that you can get somebody who was around in those days. And of course, what we've got to look forward to in the 50s, of course, is 51, 52, and 55, which is when we won the FA Cup 3 times in 5 years.
Fair play to George, if you can remember all the way back to 1950, mate. I can barely remember what I did 5 years ago, never mind 5 minutes ago, never mind 72 years ago. So fair play to him. His memory must be a heck of a lot sharper than mine, and I hope mine's as sharp as his when I get to that stage.
Yeah, me too, mate. I really am looking forward to that. But he's got some great stories. And Supermac and Gibbo will be talking about Newcastle United and what's going on with the transfer window, etc. However, I have asked them to do something a little bit different as well. So Gibbo and Supermac will be doing a review of Malcolm's seasons at the club, which will be fascinating. Games, goals, and shenanigans on and off the pitch, which, believe you me, Gibbo and Malcolm got up to a fair few shenanigans away from the pitch. I'm sure Gibbo will be embarrassing Malcolm on a few of those shows, but I'm looking forward to hearing them. So don't forget, you can still tune into them on a Thursday. But yeah, still 7 shows a week. Looking forward to it. A lot of people asking about Paqueta. I said this a couple of times last week. I still believe that it's just been driven by social media. It's driven by the fact that he's very good friends with Bruno. Photographed, of course, in a Newcastle strip from a rather bizarre angle. It looked as if it was from a window or on somebody's roof. Ross, it would be exciting to have another Brazilian coming in. But again, I'm not sure that there's much mileage in that one.
No, I agree with you, Steve. It's a link that's come out purely off the back of Bruno. It's his best mate. He wants him to come and play at Newcastle with him. Of course he does. It's his best friend. He's obviously a very, very talented player, but that's not how transfers work, unfortunately. That's not, Callum Wilson's not saying, well, I want my best mate to come, and Dan Burn all of a sudden wants his best mate from his Blythe days to come and play. That's not how it works. There's got to be a structure around the transfer business. It might be one for further down the line, but I don't see that one happening anytime soon.
No, me neither. I'd love to be surprised by it, but we will see. Chipper's morning, he says, what a contrast to start with a training camp in York under the old regime, to 2 camps in Saudi and Dubai under the new regime. We are back. Yeah, the pre-season, a bit of a disappointment that Newcastle and Wolves, to name 2, had the rug pulled from under their feet, Ross. Any news on what they've managed to sort out?
Not that I've heard, if I'm being honest. No, nothing that I've heard on that front. Obviously, they're going to have to put Plan B into operation now, which is like you say, is a bit of a blow. You would hope that there's a couple of games at St James's hopefully in the summer. Always good to have at least one home friendly before the season starts, so you can again galvanise the support and get a big crowd in at the club. I remember going to Juventus when Juventus came here in the pre-season, and I think it was Valencia as well. Those big games are really good to have at St James. So hopefully, like one of them. But I've not heard anything much more than what's been reported in the minute, Steve.
Kyle Utterson on Twitter says, do you think we will sign a marquee player, a top striker perhaps, someone like Nunes or Osimhen or Isaac or Schick? He's picking names out of a hat, all names that have been linked with Newcastle. What's your thoughts?
I think there'll be a really top quality striker coming. It depends what your class is as a marquee, as a superstar signing, because I've said before, the club, I'd be astounded if they're able to operate at that very, very top level. So your Nunes, for example, is going to have his pick of clubs across Europe because of what he's done in the Champions League and in the profile that he has now. And let's be honest, why would he come to Newcastle if he's got opportunities to still play Champions League football at big clubs, either in this country or elsewhere? So I think there will be a big name signing. I've said it previously, I'll say it again. I think they will smash the transfer record this summer, and they will bring somebody high profile in. And I think that's what they need. I think they just need to keep pushing on that forward front, on that striker front, but it might not be the big name that some fans may be clamouring for.
Yeah, I mean, they're difficult as well to find goal scorers. January especially is hard, but the summer, there will be people out of contract. I think as well, the big problem we've got is we don't have any European football to offer us. That's going to mean that those names that are getting linked are going to be, maybe not the names that we were hoping for. Tom Dixon is saying we're still in for Ream striker Hugo Ekitike. He would cost around 30 million. Is that a name that excites you, Ross? Is that a marquee signing?
It's a good signing. I think it'd be a good signing. It's not every transfer is a gamble. If you bring a 19-year-old kid in from France, it's a gamble. We've seen that with Remy Cabert and with Torvan and a few others that we've plucked out of the French league over the years. There is an element of risk around it, but that's the same with every transfer. Like I say, I think somebody like him will be a good addition to the squad, but I would still expect it to be another big name to go alongside and kind of really excite the fans. I agree with you. It's difficult. If you haven't got European football, it's very, very difficult to attract those top players. What you want is somebody who will, without trying to sound too corny about it, who will buy into the project that is happening at Newcastle at the minute. Will look at it and say, right, this is where the club is now, but this is where the club potentially could be in 2 or 3 or 4 years' time. So someone like Bruno's bought into that project. You can see someone like Kieran Trippier is clearly coming for that reason as well, because he can see what's happening. He's an experienced enough player, and those are the types of players that you need. You need that players who are hungry and who are happy to try and help build the club up into a European force again. And not expected just to come in when the club is right at the very top.
Yeah, okay. Big thanks, as always, to our sponsors, Spider Miner. And you get worldwide coverage from the lads. The only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245, and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to ClearKai. Meet the new Game Over screen, drop into a ClearRun device near you. Available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Neil Jackson for media arts and all the video work that they do. And if you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show has been out on YouTube. If you want to become a member, you can become a member by hitting the join button on the YouTube page, or you can go to NUFCmatters.com or use your smartphone camera to take you to the site via this QR code. What do you get for your membership if you go onto the website? Well, you get a scarf, you get a pen, a membership card, and a cup, and entry into the monthly draw. And congratulations to C. Marshall, who won the monthly draw this month, £50 worth of Amazon vouchers and an Alan Shearer signed presentation case from the 260 dinner. We also give away car stickers. If you subscribe, you just need to make sure that you email John at NUFCmatters.com to get your car sticker today. And don't forget, the food bank, we support them on this show. With no home games, it becomes increasingly important that there are some donations made to the food bank via the Matchday Bucket, which is available 365 days of the year. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. And the clock is ticking for this event. It is our end of season party, Friday the 24th of June. Mick Lowes and Andy Griffin are at Shearer's Bar. Tickets are £12 and available from NUFCmatters.com. Do not miss out on this. It's Andy Griffin's first talk-in. Should be a cracking night. There's some cracking European nights with Andy Griffin. And, of course, Mick Lowes giving us his own insight into Newcastle United as well. There are still tickets left for the Alan Shearer signed ball. NUFCmatters.com is where you need to go to enter the raffle. There's only 99 tickets available to start with, and you could be in the running to win a signed Alan Shearer ball. Next week on the shows, we will be discussing the season. We'll be doing a season review with everybody who jumps on. So we're giving you a chance to get involved. Get your vote in now at NUFCmatters.com for your player of the season. The squad list is on there on the website. You just need to click to NUFCmatters.com and vote for your player of the season, and we will announce that on the Three Amigos next week. So make sure you get your vote in to play your part in that. Okay, back to the stuff on the chat. Steve Mowat says, morning all. We've gone back to pre-takeover days. Twitter and social media has gone mental in the last 48 hours with fans back to tearing strips of each other. But I have to say, Ross has been a breath of fresh air. There you go, Ross. Nice to get a compliment, isn't it?
It is. Thank you very much, Steve.
Yeah, very good, Steve. Thank you for that. Darren says, I thought the club had agreed 17 million for Matt Target a month ago. Not so, Darren. There was a fee that was talked about, like a fee agreed if he was to move, but it's down to the player, Darren. Not always going to happen. Let's hope he does, because I think he's fitted in well. And as Chris Banks says, he would be a bargain at 15 million, which I think was the agreed price. We've talked a little bit about pre-season. David Birch just put this up, Ross, that the Premier League starts on the 6th of August. Obviously breaks up 12th to the 13th of November because of the World Cup. Restarts Boxing Day. Season ends May the 28th, for anyone wondering. That really is not giving any team enough time to prepare, is it? Normally they would have June off, and it would be back in 1st of July, and they would have a couple of weeks extra. It's going to be tough, and there's going to be certain clubs that are going to struggle, especially with internationals. England have got this Europa League of Nations or whatever it is, which they've got to play. I think they play 3 games in the space of 10 days. It's going to be tough for some of these professional footballers. They're not going to have much of a holiday. No,
it's going to be a tight turnaround. It's going to be a season like no other, isn't it? We've never had a World Cup bang in the middle of a season. I can't decide whether I like it or not, whether I like the idea of it or not. I'll be interested to hear what other people think, but it's just going to be different, isn't it? You're used to getting to the end of the season and having a World Cup to look forward to, but it's going to be right, bang, November, here we go into a World Cup, and then coming back for kind of Christmas and Boxing Day fixtures. So I can't decide whether I'm looking forward to it or not. I think I probably am, but I'm a bit of a traditionalist, so it's going to be a strange one in terms of this summer as well. You're right. There's a lot of international games that are coming up with the Nations League. I think the squad's getting named around lunchtime-ish today or early afternoon today. The England squad certainly for it. Would you have any Newcastle players in there? Is Callum Wilson worth a little sniff now that he's back fit? Trippier, you would hope, would get in there. Matt Target, I know he's not technically a Newcastle player, but does he deserve a look at left back? Because there has been a few issues with the left backs in the past. Or would you, as a Newcastle fan, prefer that there's just no players in that England squad whatsoever? They get an extra few weeks off. They can go away, rest, recuperate, and come back. Or would you like to see them get that international recognition? That's the dilemma for some fans over the next few weeks, certainly.
Yeah, just miss them out, Gareth. You do all the time anyway. Why change the habit of a lifetime? Darren says, are we still in for Tarkowski? Is reported today. It seems Villa are leading the way to sign him along with Everton. Again, it's another one that's been linked with us on a regular basis. I mean, I got to watch him close hand on Sunday. He's a big unit, Ross. He's a big unit. I always prefer the combination of a big lad like Byrne and somebody a little bit more quicker and agile like Fabian Schär. And I think that partnership would be the one to encourage. I'm not so keen on Tarkowski.
Is he massively better than what the club has at the minute? Is he massively better than Dan Byrne or Fabian Schär or Jamal Lascelles? I'm not convinced that he is. Obviously, I think the club will sign a centre half this summer because Fernandes will be on his way and they'll want to bring in somebody else. I think they will look to bring in a number of free transfers. during the summer as well, just because there's a lot of good players out of contract this summer for whatever reason. So there's a lot of options, and Tarkowski's obviously knows the Premier League, knows the way it operates. I spoke to somebody probably about 6 months or so ago who was close to Tarkowski, or close to the Tarkowski kind of camp, if you like, and they'd said he was definitely leaving Burnley in the summer, and he was looking to get a top 8 club. Was the words that I said. They thought, or Tarkowski's people thought that they could get him into a top 8 club. Maybe he's not necessarily as a starter. Maybe he's not necessarily as somebody who's going to be playing 30, 40, 50 games a season, but as a squad player within a top 8 club like a West Ham or a Wolves or at the time kind of whoever was pushing for that top 8. Now Newcastle are probably in and around that mix now. I think is a top 10, top 8 club. So it might be that they're trying to push Tarkowski towards Newcastle. But I'm the same as you, Steve. I don't necessarily think he's a huge upgrade on what the club's got at the minute.
I would take Conor Cody. I think he would be a better option than potentially than Tarkowski. I've always fancied bringing him in. I think he's a great centre half. He's a good leader. He's a good header of the ball. I would like him, but again, it's not a priority position. It's not a priority. The centre forward will have to go all out to find that goal scorer. Another thing, I chucked this into the mix on social media over the weekend, and Tom's picked up on it. He says, Ross, would you have a pre-season friendly with Sunderland, home or away? Now, I asked Toon Polls to put this out there, and Toon Polls are obviously a Twitter account who puts out polls. And they said, would you welcome a pre-season friendly against Sunderland? There was 3,144 votes. Bring it on, 45.8%. No thanks, 54.2%. Where do you sit on that question, Ross?
It would be a great game, mind. It would be a fantastic occasion. I can't say it happening for a number of reasons. I don't think either club would probably go for it, and I don't think for reasons different for themselves. And then you've also then got to try and persuade Northumbria Police and everything else like that to get involved, because it would be a huge match. It would be great, but there is. I can see one of the comments there from Ian McKenna saying there's no such thing as a Newcastle Sunderland friendly. It wouldn't be a friendly game. There would be that edge, that rivalry, that kind of bitterness. And do you need that in pre-season? Do Newcastle need that at this particular point in their stage, in their journey? Does Sunderland need it at this particular point? Probably not. But I think there's a growing feeling. There's definitely a growing feeling that Sunderland obviously. Well done to them. Congratulations to them for getting promoted at the weekend. Rivalries and everything aside, I think it's healthy that as I touched on before with Leeds and the like, that we have really strong football clubs in the north of England, in the northeast, and Middlesbrough just missed out on the playoffs and so on and so forth. I think there's a growing feeling that we'd like to see that at the time we had derbies back again from a lot of people. It's been a long time since we had those games, and I think it just adds to the season, adds to the drama and the excitement, and hopefully we get them sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I look at well done to Sunderland. I watched the game. They're going to have problems in that division still. I mean, it's nice to see them back up into the Championship. I know some fans hate the fact that Holly Blades, for instance, just wishes Sunderland were out of existence. I genuinely would like to see them in the Premier League and Newcastle being top dog. I'd love to see Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough there. Be great for North East football, and I've always been like that. I can't help it. That's the way I was brought up, and I've enjoyed seeing them stagnate a little bit in the old third division, but it's no good for North East football, and you've just got to hope that they can probably survive in the Championship and build it. It's not going to be easy for them. That division is so hard. Coming down from the Premier League, but going up from the old third division's a nightmare.
It's brutal. It's a really, really brutal, relentless slog of a league. And you've got to have big squads. You've got to have tough, uncompromising players in key positions. You've got to have a manager who knows what he's doing. And that they do have currently in Alex Neil. He is very, very good. He is very well organised, and I've got a lot of friends who work at Sunderland and work behind the scenes and in various different roles, and they all speak very highly of Alex Neil. But they're going to need to really, really bump that squad up to prosper in that championship. And it might be a good couple of 3, maybe longer years before they can really establish themselves as a force. You look at Middlesbrough, we've talked about, they find it so tough just to get back out of that league. So it's not going to be easy for them in there. But I do think in Alex Neil, in that they have got a very, very good manager there.
Yeah, it was, as I say, it was interesting to watch. I did have to snigger a little bit when one of the commentators went, I can't remember which guy it was who scored, but he went, and he's a season ticket holder. And I said, well, that's a novel idea, playing season ticket holders at Sunderland. Things got that bad. Just coming out again out of the crowd.
What I would say about Sunderland, and we can, it's very easy to kind of mock the position that they've been in, is from a Newcastle perspective. But what they do have, and they've had for a lot of years now, is a fantastic academy, a really, really good academy, and bringing players through, whether it's your Pickfords and your Hendersons back in the day, and they've got a real, they've got a kind of conveyor belt of young players. There's a young lad there now in the under 15s who's very highly thought of, and I know Newcastle are looking at him as well as a lot of other Premier League clubs. They just seem to be able to produce these players, and it's something that we hope that Newcastle can get back to as well, producing these good young talented players. The Longstaffs have made a little impact on the scene recently, but you have to go back to Dummett's and 10, 12 years ago, and your Stephen Taylor's even further than that, until you've had like players really come in and establish themselves in that first team. So yeah, it's good luck to them, and I think they'll certainly have a tough campaign ahead of themselves in the championship.
Jimmy Watt wants to go off topic. He says, what do you think about the Mbappe deal? I mean, that's just ludicrous, isn't it? The wages.
The wages are ludicrous. The amount of power it sounds that he's got is ludicrous. It's like the old Dennis Waterman, he writes the theme tune, sings the theme tune, plays the theme tune. It's like Mbappe. He trains, he coaches the team, he picks the team, he's director of football, he washes the kit. All them jobs that he's doing, he probably deserves the 100 million or whatever it is a year that he's getting. It's ridiculous money, and I can see why PSG have done it, because to go and replace somebody like Mbappe of his quality, they'd have to spend big. But he's played them like an old fiddle, hasn't he? Up against Real Madrid, the two of them, he's just played them off against each other. Got himself a nice bumper paid there, mental money. And Newcastle, we talk about Newcastle being the richest club in the world, and blah 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 blah, potentially, a million miles away from being able to spend that sort of money on players.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and that brings us to Darren's comment. Yeah, he says, do you think Newcastle might be looking at Isco, who's on a free transfer, ex-Real Madrid player? I think they will. I'm not saying him, but I think they will be looking at free transfers and the loan market, which I know some people will scratch their heads and say it's ludicrous. PIF, and all the wealth we've got. Why would you be looking at? But it's not always about spending £70 million on a player. We just need to look at, some of the players that we've come across playing for the likes of Manchester United, etc. this season, and other teams that we've seen. You look at them and they're not worth the money. They come on, they have some of them are sitting on the bench, they can't get a game, they come on, they don't play to their best. And sometimes you can find, a great player in the free transfer market. You just don't know.
Oh, 100%. And like I said earlier, there's so many good players who are out of contract at the minute who've let their contracts run down or for whatever reason. It's not about spending big money. Look at the January transfer window as an example. What did Kieran Trippier cost? 12 and a bit million. That's not big money these days. Dan Burn was what, 9, 10, 11 million, something like that. Again, not big money. Yes, club splashed out big on Bruno and to an extent Chris Wood, and because needed to get a striker in, and sometimes you're going to have to buy big and going to have to spend the money. But if you can save a few quid on by buying a couple of defenders or a defender and a midfielder who are free transfers, then that gives you more on the pot via FFP. it gives you more in the pot to go and spend on wages and go and spend on a top class striker.
Yeah, no, it does, and we will be very shrewd, I think, in this window. There is, for me, there's no doubt about it. Tom says, Ross, I see you have a book out. Will you be doing any more in the future?
Yes, the books have been out for a while now, Tom. It was a book on South Shields Football Club and their fall and rise, and it was 5 years ago at the weekend when they won the FA Vars at Wembley, and I was fortunate enough to be down there for a few days covering the club, and that they took 15,000 down there at Wembley, which for a club of South Shields' size was incredible. I have got another book that I'm hoping to get off the production line at some point, but if you want to buy the one currently, Tom, I think it's still available from Amazon, or I've got a few in my loft, believe it or not, still left.
There you go, Tom. So get yourself online, and if not, give us a shout back on next Tuesday's show, and I'm sure we can sort something out with Ross and make sure you get one. But it is a great book, and as a South Shields born lad, that was a great day out. And I think the beauty of that, Ross, was 2 games in a day, and the other game was involving York City, of course. Yeah,
that non-league finals day, and the crowd, there was 45,000 there. I think it was one of the record crowds at the time. Might still be the record crowd. It was a sunny day, great to watch Shields lift the Vars, and then York were in the trophy, I think it was. So yeah, good days.
No, definitely was good days. Obviously Newcastle now have that little bit of a break in the training ground, I guess, is the big thing in the summer as well, isn't it? I mean, the plans now are in place to improve that. Do you think that will be? Do you think that's going to be ready? For maybe the back end of the year, the start of next year. It's clearly not going to be ready for August.
Yeah, I think they're going to push ahead and get it done as quickly as possible. That there'll be a few little bits around the ground that'll probably be ready for them coming back in pre-season, but the major work will obviously take a lot longer. It's much needed. You need to improve the facilities. They've been neglected for so long, as the St. James's has as well. And there's going to have to be a serious thoughts about what they do there to tart it up in the kind of the short term, similar to what they're doing with the training ground. But it's massively needed. Some of us have been fortunate enough to go to other training grounds around the Premier League and around not just the Premier League, Championship clubs, and seen some of the facilities that they have these days at some of these clubs, and Newcastle are just lacking way behind. So yeah, much needed, but it will take a little bit of time, unfortunately.
Yeah, Kyle, good to see you, mate. He goes, friendly against Sunderland would be great. It's been way too long since we had a derby game. I'd love to play Barcelona as well. It brings back great memories. I mean, getting back to that briefly, the Texaco Cup was big in the 70s, Ross, wasn't it? I mean, Newcastle used to play Sunderland, Middlesbrough, and then there was a couple of invited teams as well, wasn't it? They used to play, I think they played some Scottish teams in there. They had some, I think Bastia, if I remember rightly, was another one that they played. I'd have to check the annals of Newcastle United's history, but there was always like a combination cup, if you like, which, it does create interest and, of course, brings in revenue for all the teams.
It does. And one of the things that sometimes is levelled around the pre-season games is that it's just a bit flat. It's a little bit more, it's a bit like a training game. There's no kind of real edge to them. Sometimes it's difficult to get kind of big ticket sales on it. So there's definitely mileage in it. I think it's probably a little bit too early for that at the minute. I don't think it would suit Sunderland where they are. I don't think it would suit Newcastle where they are. I like seeing, Newcastle play against the Scottish teams, against played Hibs a couple of years ago, and Celtics and whatever. Maybe get one of them down to St. James's, Celtic or Rangers, and have a really good a good crowd at St. James's for a pre-season friendly, which has a little bit of riding on it, but maybe it's not as much intensity as what you would get with a Sunderland game.
I always find with a Celtic game, I know from back in the days when I was working, on the doors in Newcastle, there was always trouble when Celtic came to town. That was the only thing that would put me off that. But I know where you're coming from a competitive nature, competitive game side of things. it would be great.
Yeah, Celtic. There was Sunderland had Celtic down a few years ago when I was working on the Sunderland Echo as well. Actually, I recall that now, and there was bother as well. So yeah, I think you need to try to get a competitive element to it, but you just need to be a little bit careful. And I think the Sunderland one would just be a bit too edgy for me at this point.
Yeah, okay, I would agree on that. Brian says, were South Shields the two nursery team in the 50s and 60s? Were they?
A bit before my time. I'll look into that one, Brian, and see if I can find it. But a little bit before my time on Shields. Not that old. I've got the grey hair, but I'm not quite that old, Brian.
Tom says he thinks Newcastle will go back to Saudi or Dubai for a pre-season warm-up. I just think, unless they're doing indoor training, it's just going to be too hot.
Yeah, it'd be way too hot. Be absolutely boiling. There's a reason why the World Cup's been moved to October to the November and December. So, but yeah, they've got a few things that they need to pull out of the bag over the next couple of weeks around pre-season. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. So
obviously, it's downtime for the players. For you as a journalist and somebody who works in the media, is it a hard job, Ross, for you and the likes of Lee Ryder and Liam Kennedy, and when you haven't got that day-to-day involvement with a football club, when you're getting an update on an injury, or is this a busier time with all of these transfer links that we're going to get? Is it a bit of downtime for you as well?
It's not. It's actually busier. In some extent, it's different for different people. One journalist's job isn't the same as another. But if I go back, 10, 12 years, when I started off with the Shields Gazette, say what's that, about 15 years ago, say, I remember it got to the end of the season. You would speak to the manager and the players and whatever for the week after the end of the season, and then you'd have about 3 or 4 weeks kind of downtime, and you'd get your holidays in, you'd go off, do a little bit of stuff like that, leave a few pieces that were timeless that could be kind of put out at any point. But it was a little bit of downtime. The transfer window has completely and utterly changed that. So from a digital media perspective, more of our traffic will come during July and August, with interest in transfers, with the start of pre-season, with players being signed, with players being released, with just the rumours and the speculation about it. It becomes even more of a busier period, certainly July and August. June's a little bit of a flat month still. But once you hit kind of July, it just ramps up massively. And I know people can find transfers a little bit frustrating and can find them a little bit, it's just gossip, it's just speculation, it's just rumor. But look, we all want to be entertained, we all want to be excited, we all want to be fascinated by potential signings. The numbers of people who read our stuff during the transfer window, you wouldn't believe, and it shows that people do get excited by it and do want to read it, even regardless sometimes of how much they might criticize those kind of transfer rumours. But yeah, July and August are certainly mental busy.
Yeah, it does get us through the summer, all this speculation. And at least, as I said to somebody at the gym this morning, Ross, at least we can talk about it now, and there's hope that something might come off, because in the last 14 years, we haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, you're in the conversation now, aren't you? You're in the mix for you can have a conversation about a player who's costing 50, 60 million and go, yeah, actually we might be in the mix for that type of player. It's just exciting times, rather than the odd free signing or the odd scraping the bottom of the barrel and trying to sell before you can buy and all that sort of stuff, which was quite demoralising for 5 or 6 years on the trot, really. Just to have these conversations, just to be able to think and dream that you might be able to sign somebody of kind of real standing and real repute is something that's long overdue.
Great stuff. Ross, where can people find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter, it's Ross Gregory 9. That's the best place to find me at the minute, I think.
Okay, good stuff, mate. Thanks as always. And next week we will have a review of the season. So look forward to hearing your views on the winners and losers of Newcastle United's 2021 season. But have a good week, Ross. Thanks for joining us. Take care, mate.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks, everyone.